My name is Eric Stewart, and I am a director of Code Green Community and its founder. I wanted to share my personal story so you can understand my perspective and emphasize with how I feel. I want you to believe in the mission of Code Green Community so that you can emphasize the necessity of change in your own neighborhood. I'm a native Floridian, born in St. Petersburg. I love my state as well as the beautiful beaches found all over Florida. I grew up here and see the Tampa Bay area as my hometown for life. This is my family crest. I am a steward, and I take it as my mission to be a good steward of the planet. Our family crest has a Latin inscription that translates into, "Courage grows strong at a wound." I feel that America is wounded and we must regain the courage to build resilience and transition our community to a lower dependence on fossil fuels. This wound is deep. It's destroying the Gulf of Mexico as I speak, and will so for many months to come. I can't help but look at these pictures and wonder to myself, what are my children inheriting? That's what brings me to my purpose in life at the moment, to bring about a world worth inheriting for the next generation. These are pictures of my nephews and nieces. When I was their age, Exxon Valdez spilled in Alaska. Now we have an environmental disaster leaking out 10 times the amount of Exxon Valdez spilled. We are leaving a world that's not worth inheriting, and this must be our purpose to change that. I live in the Tampa Bay area, and the oil spill is getting closer by the minute. Reports put it at somewhere around 35 miles and moving closer to our shorelines. This oil will jeopardize an already fragile economy. We are the most populous area in Florida, and our beaches bring millions of tourists every year to our shores. We already have a huge unemployment problem coupled with a foreclosure crisis. Pinellas and Pasco are the largest foreclosure rates as far as counties go, with over 34,000 foreclosed homes. Another wave of mortgage resets are on the way and could cause a possible problem with more foreclosures and bankruptcies over the next few years. The environmental degradation has been going on for thousands of years, but since the 1800s, when we started industrialized culture, we have been exponentially growing as a species. This exponential growth causes exponential decline in available resources for future generations. As seen in the picture, in the 1800s, you would go to a copper mine and find nuggets the size of small cars. Now we have to mine entire mountains to get small percentages of copper per ton. This exponential decline in resources gives you understanding of the next problem the next generation faces. Our energy is primarily oil. Since the 1970s, domestic production of oil has peaked and been in decline. When production peaks, the demand continues to rise and you have price fluctuations such as happened in 2008 when gasoline hit nearly $5 a gallon. Since the 1970s, we've been more and more reliant on oil imports to match our demand. This is causing a huge deficit for our country. Recently, both the Energy Information Administration and International Energy Agency released reports and graphs showing the future projected oil production for the world oil reservoirs. As you can see, crude oil has peaked production and entered decline at around 7 to 9% year after year. To get a grip on that number, the 1970s oil crisis was only a 5% decline in production, but it caused hour-long waits for gasoline at the pumps as well as spikes in prices. We have no comparable technology to oil. Oil is a super energy-dense material that stores the sun from millions of years ago. Even using all the technologies that we have, none of them are in a liquid form that we can use for our car-dependent culture without retrofitting hundreds of millions of cars to work on electric power. Without a doubt, we are at the peak production of oil. Just to replace the Deepwater Horizon, it would cost double the initial production cost. Close to $1 billion per well means oil will be more expensive if it comes from the Gulf. The end of cheap oil will mean the end of our current economy and a transition to a new economy that are still yet to be conceived of. Everything we took for granted will change on a scope never imagined, and our daily lives to our workplaces. But I'm not a doom and gloomer. I don't propose collapse is the way. I want to show you the population chart of our species. See the dip near the beginning, before the historic exponential growth? The Black Death, or the plague, caused our species to face difficult wounds. We gained the courage to think anew and have a renaissance, a rebirth of our civilization with new ideas and new culture. From the darkest hour the brightest flame was lit, the human spirit. So what would a renaissance look like? Where would we begin? In my quest to look for solutions, followed by my gaining of this knowledge, I looked at a small upstart group that started in Kinsale, Ireland. Rob Hopkins, a teacher at a college, showed his students film about peak oil, and they got together to decide how they could change their lives to prepare for a world without oil. They came up with an energy descent action plan, a multi-year look at what the community could do to prepare for more expensive oil. Everything from food to energy to transportation was looked at and solutions found to be implemented. Following the endeavor, Rob Hawkins moved to his home country of England, where he formed the Transition Network. The Transition Network started with Transition Town, Totnes, a small town in southern England where Rob used the same ideas in Kinsale to do a larger scale with a whole community getting involved. Transition Town Totnes started putting together an energy descent plan along with the Transition Handbook for other towns to follow their footsteps. They held films, open discussions, and debates, put together working groups that set up community orchards and community gardens, and many projects were started and continue to go on today. The Transition Town concept spread across England very quickly. Rob Hopkins is an inspirational man, and I'd like to share one of his quotes. With the release of the Transition Town Handbook in 2008, the Transition Network spread across the world as if some kind of virus. Mid-2008, I had already read the Kinsale Energy Plan and got a hold of the Transition Handbook. I was reading it when I decided to form my own transition town where I was living. After a few months of holding meetings before an open mic at a bar in Tarpon Springs, we decided to get more serious and hold monthly meetings at members' homes and libraries. The formation of Code Green Community is a transition network hub for the greater Tampa Bay area. We are connecting people all over the Tampa Bay area and teaching them how to get away from fossil fuel dependence. We are open source all of our information so anyone can mimic what we do and make it easier to spread to other towns by having examples and sharing a positive plan for action over the next 20 years. It's all voluntary and no paid staff. The members who join Code Green Community run the site themselves. Each person is a leader. The membership of the Code Green Community can set up their own groups, their own events, post blogs to write about their personal stories and experiences, share information, and eventually community projects and enterprises can be done with this collaboration. The objectives of a Code Green Community are to raise awareness of the threats that the next generation faces. Working together, we can build economic resilience, lower our carbon output, and create alternatives to fossil fuels. We can work together collaboratively for a power down of our civilization. We work on our members' yards doing permablitzes where we meet to create gardens where food can be grown at our members' homes. This concept is all about reciprocity. If you help a member out, they'll come to help you out at your house. We gather together after the work is done for a lunch potluck. We do such activities as host movies, seed exchanges, lessons on gardening and skills such as canning. We've been hosting environmental movies at the Newport Richey Library since October of 2009.